Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trucked Before. This time, Lower Decks. Yeah, we haven't jumped into the future. This is Lower Decks from TNG. But if you want to jump into the future or jump back into our past, become a Patreon member. Patreon.com/IABD. IABD. You'll have access to everything in our vast library, going way back. You can hear us talking about Lower Decks even. But right now, we're talking about the original Lower Decks. Lower Decks, TNG. It's all been checked before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trucked Before. Hosts are here.
This is Steven.
Jimmy-Jerome. We are here to talk Star Trek The Next Generation Lower Decks, not to be confused with the animated series Lower Decks, which got inspiration from this episode, rightfully so.
Yeah.
First impressions on Lower Decks.
This was not as funny as your usual episode of Lower Decks, though there was some fun. I ended up liking this a lot.
Yeah.
I was worried early on, and I couldn't remember if the conversations we had about if it was supposed to be good or not. But then, yeah, at the end, it really got me. But I thought the whole episode I liked a lot. I thought not only do we learn more about the Lower Decks characters, but even our regular set of executive officers. So yeah, and I thought it was a very affecting episode. And I'll quote our friends from my favorite Trek Tumblr, Fashion It So, who of this episode said, and I'm getting way ahead, but you know, the reason we like the show is the main cast. Don't bring in these posers and ask us to care about them. Here's the thing, though. I legit cried at the end of this episode. Thanks a lot, TNG. So I was just like, is this just, am I in a weird place? But no, I was in a similar place by the end, which I think is noteworthy. You know, as much as we've talked about the fatigue and ennui, we feel like the series is hit at this point. They got there this episode, for me at least. So
I 100% agree. I've never seen this episode. I was only lightly familiar with what it was.
Okay.
And I did openly weep at the end and was surprised by it because we've had some pretty emotional Next Gen stuff. I'm not sure I've ever cried at a Next Generation episode before.
Yeah, I'll just say that, yeah, I was surprised too because I thought, okay, I can kind of see this coming, but I think the aftermath was what was really good. And I'll get my Balance of Terror mentioned out right away is, you know, I feel like it's something, some episodes, and I'm going back to TOS of Star Trek, or TV in general, but the Star Trek, since that's what this podcast is about, you get a lot of emotion generated on screen that isn't earned. And this one, I thought, you know what, the way they structured this and everything, it was really well earned. And
yeah.
it got me. It got me. So that's how you do it. They did good here.
Totally agree. It's funny that 10 episodes before the end of your series, you basically take your main cast and put them in the backbench for an episode.
Yeah.
There was more of the main crew than there was in the initial concept of the animated Lower Decks, though I feel like as the animated Lower Decks has gone on, they've incorporated the bridge crew more and more regularly, and I'm not salty about that. I will say my alternate episode to blow it right now is less senior staff. Like, do an episode that's truly about the Lower Deckers.
I started off going there. My alternate episode ended up being I feel like all the exec officers, or at least several of them, talk about the previous Lower Decks experience.
Sure.
I'd like to see some of that as well. I would like to see that.
When Worf and Picard both had really effective plots in this episode, despite their limited screen time. Crusher and Geordi were kind of useful. The rest didn't matter, but Picard and Worf had affecting story. That was good. I do wish now that the animated Lower Decks included a barback among the fit. Because that's honestly, I was halfway through the episode before I realized he was really part of it. I was like, oh, he's just like a Guinan assistant. And then you're like, oh no, he's definitely getting as much screen time as the rest of them.
Yes. Yeah.
And development.
He was great.
I was tickled. Yeah. I wanted more Ben.
I literally wrote that. More Ben? Question mark. And then he came back and I was like, yes.
More Ben is played by Bruce Betty, best known for the show Dope, Falling Down, Colors, and The Negotiator, none of which I've heard of. He has 36 credits. His most recent being a one-episode part in Dahmer, the Jeffrey Dahmer story that starred Evan Peters last year. By the time this airs 2 years ago. But yeah, it's not a lot of credits, mostly just
I was surprised.
Stuff.
Or at least not a lot of, maybe he does a lot of stage work. But he was Ice Cube's dad in Straight Outta Compton, the movie.
Nice. Yeah, this is his only Trek credit. That's one episode, unfortunately. But yeah, I liked him a lot. In fact, only one of these five okay, two of them were returning characters. Nurse Agawa, who I kept saying Agawa, but it is Ogawa.
Yeah.
Sorry for mispronouncing in previous episodes of Trek, because she's in, 15 episodes of Next Gen, and we're already through most of her episodes. I mean, she's still in some more coming up. Played by the wonderful Patty Yasutake. I'm probably mispronouncing that too. I apologize. But yeah, we're not done with Agawa, and she's actually in the first two films as well. So we've got some more time with Agawa. And she's in the Star Trek Titan books as Will Riker's chief medical officer on his ship when he eventually gets it way down the line, which is cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, I liked having her, and that was really an in because we really knew nothing about her, but we'd seen her around. Right. But the other character that we'd seen before, I don't know if you remember, Sito Jaxa, played by Shannon Phil.
Yeah, the name sounded familiar, and she looked familiar, but I didn't tie it back until they tied it back.
Picard brought it up.
Yeah.
She's best known for this 2-episode role, as well as guest parts on Walker, Texas Ranger, Murder, She Wrote, and Freshman Dorm. She only has 8 credits.
Yeah, she was only active for like 4 years.
Yeah, which is interesting. I won't say she's like the best actress or anything, but she still made me cry. So, take that as you will. But yeah, it was surprising to me. And first of all, she's 5'6". She felt so much shorter. According to IMDb, she's 5'6.5". She felt so much shorter. Maybe just Michael Dorn's really tall. But she was in the episode where Wesley got in trouble for covering up the shuttle accident. Did not even remember her as a cadet in that episode as part of the cover-up. But what an interesting choice when you're doing an episode like this. Because she, in that episode, was not like one of the lead guest stars. She was a minor part of it, where it was Wesley and that other guy were the main focus. To pick her, I really want to know. I tried Googling and couldn't, at least a light Google, couldn't figure out why they decided to bring her back. But what an interesting idea.
Yeah. Yeah, and I at the end, as we got later in the episode, I'm like, oh, was she supposed to be the focus? But I was like, you know what? They kind of did a pretty good job of giving all 4 of those Lower Decks folks and Ben stuff to do.
Yeah, they did.
I'm calling him the Tom Cruise cadet, the Riker guy, Lavelle. Yeah. I thought he would be the focus. Then I was like, I feel like we haven't seen him in a while. And then, he came back at the end there. So
I think Lavelle and Jaxa were Mariner and Boimler. And Torek was clearly our Rutherford, although a Vulcan version of him. And Ogawa was our Tendi, which means Ben is our. So what's the new Vulcan officer this year? Talin or whatever?
Oh yeah.
That doesn't quite make sense. That doesn't really line.
Maybe not perfect, but
he's more of a Rutherford. And Talin is like, oh, we really didn't cover Torek, so let's no, not really. I mean, they are actually quite a bit different than our animated Lower Decks, which is good. Like, it's a different purpose, it's a different audience, it's a different tone. I still thought it was a good mix of the 5. I think the 5 worked well together.
Yeah, I thought it was well done. And now I think people would call it woke casting or something because you had
it was a diverse cast.
Yeah, it was a diverse cast, but Star Trek's always been diverse, so or at least try
when it's doing its job.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was looking at who wrote this because I wondered, the decision to bring them back, if that had anything to do with anything. And the story is by 2 people, Ronald Wilkerson and Jean-Louise Mateus. Ronald Wilkinson previously wrote the episode in season 5, Imaginary Friend, and in season 6, Schisms and Lessons. So this is his 4th of 4 credits. Was not involved in the episode in question with Wesley. And he will go on to write 3 more episodes of Voyager. So he's got a handful of credits. Jean-Louise Mateus also has 4 Next Gen credits. You may not be surprised to learn they're the exact same 4 credits, but only 2 Voyager. So they must be mostly writing partners, and 2 of the Voyager are 2 of the 3 of the other guy. So
Imaginary Friend was not good, and Schisms I don't remember good, but they got there on this one.
They did, and then they story by teleplay was by Rene Echevarria, one of our regulars. So he went in and. I don't know how much was him and how much was them, but it was well written. Let's start at the beginning because we haven't yet. We're just talking major themes.
Yeah.
At the beginning, we meet the Lower Deckers. We've already talked about all 5 of them. We'll cover the other 2 actors as they come up, but the first introduction to Ben in that scene where he spills the beans.
Yeah.
He eavesdrops on the senior officers and then comes back. I'm like, dude, that's not professional. I did not care for him at first glance.
That's what I wrote. I was like, this is fun, but problematic. What's going on here?
Yeah. Yeah. Then we go to the bridge where we get a drill reminiscent of the Kobayashi Maru. And I feel like I figured out pretty early it was a drill. Like, I don't think they tried to hide that much.
No.
But I liked seeing that happens regularly. It makes sense it would happen regularly, especially with younger members.
And is that Riker's, where that's where you're going, where Riker gives them a hard time for saying I instead of I?
Yes, that was my next one. I will be sufficient. And Lavelle's like, yes, sir. And Lavelle takes to heart because he's a pleaser, not a Boimler level pleaser, but he's a pleaser.
Right. Yeah.
Sam Lavelle, played by Dan Gauthier. He is best known for Tour of Duty, the television series. He did 37 episodes of the movie Teen Witch, 35 episodes of the sitcom soap opera One Life to Live, and the 1993 Pauly Shore film Son-in-Law. He has 72 credits, so he has continued to act, including a credit this year. It looks like it's mostly guest parts, though. He has not really broke through, and this is his only credit. He and Torek and Ben, this was their only episode for any of the three of them. So I guess I should have mentioned when we were talking writers, it was directed by Gabrielle Beaumont. We've talked about her a little bit before. So after Riker smacks him down, there's the fun talk on the bridge where Cito says to Lavelle, wouldn't you like to be a spider under that table? And I liked the cultural difference of an idiom that means the same thing. It was pretty obvious it meant the same thing, but I just liked it.
Yeah, that was funny. Like I said, I thought there was some funny stuff in this. It made me laugh and it made me cry.
So we go to engineering and we meet our token Vulcan, Torek, played by Alexander Enberg, who's best known for the movie Junior. I love the movie Junior. He played Arthur. I don't remember him from that. In the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
His dad was Dick Enberg, one of the great sports broadcasters of all time.
Nice.
Did a lot of Super Bowls, NFL, NBA, baseball, a little bit of everything. California Angels announcer for a long time. And his mom, Jerry Taylor, who we know from many Trek things. So, he's a Nepo baby. That's okay.
Well, this is his second Trek appearance because he played a young reporter in Times Arrow Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember him from that either. He's got guest spots on Step by Step, Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman around this time. The 90s series Get Smart, which, let's forget about that. But then he also has several Star Trek video game credits. Star Trek Voyager Elite Force, Star Trek Elite Force 2, and that's a totally different character. Crewman Austin Chang. So I was wondering what that Star Trek connection was, and you're probably absolutely right, Jerry Taylor. He has 9 credits on Voyager. Not the same character, which I think is a little bit odd. He first shows up in season 3 as a character named Ensign Vorik, who I'm going to assume is Vulcan, but don't know for sure.
And he's another young Vulcan engineer.
He's an ensign, and he plays Vorik in 8 episodes over 4 seasons of Voyager, as well as playing a different alien engineer in a 1-episode part in Voyager. So, seasons 3 through 7 of Voyager, we're gonna get some more of him. Because I didn't notice him as the reporter, I really have to pay attention. I see the picture of him on Voyager, and he is a Vulcan. He looks a little different, but not that much different.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, unfortunately, though, while he may have been a Nepo baby, he did get the crappy boss in this episode, because LaForge sucks.
Yeah, he does.
Part of the episode. I like to see the different styles of LaForge and Crusher. And to be honest, I don't know that Crusher was necessarily a great boss getting that involved. And at the same time, though, I think I really like my manager. We have personal conversations. So maybe
it's a fine line. Yeah,
it is. I don't know. For some reason, it felt like she might have been crossing to me, but that could just be prejudice or bias on my part.
I guess that's a trickier area to navigate these days. And because all the way before. So work policies are interesting. It's like, how much can you fraternize? But you should fraternize because you want to build a team, but you don't want to build too close of a team, but you still want to have a team. That's a different podcast altogether.
I just read about Alexander Enberg. Apparently he had a stroke and was in a coma in 2013. It's rumored that he subsequently recovered, but has not been active on television. That's what happened to him. That's why he disappeared. That's really unfortunate. Yeah, his last credit is 2007, and he really didn't have a credit. That's like an anomaly because it was 2003 before that, but he worked regularly up through 2003.
And 2013. He's 41. That's a young man.
Yeah, that's real rough. He's older than I am now, barely.
Yeah,
I'm 40, so. Oof.
Mm.
So yeah, anyway, Geordi's being abusive as a boss. Then we get a Crusher who's really gonna Ogawa's. So okay, here's what rubbed me the wrong way. It wasn't necessarily asking about her relationship, the bonding that rubbed me. Maybe telling her about the cheating, like interfere, but then at the same time, like you're living in a closed environment. I guess I kind of understand that. But the one thing that really bothered me was the beginning of the scene where she's like, assuming everything goes well, you're getting promoted because I put you in promotion. And I'm like, wait, it's not finalized. You're telling me. It doesn't go right. What if it doesn't go through? That bothered me.
Yeah.
If it doesn't go through, then I could see her saying, hey, I recommended you. I'm sorry it didn't happen. We're going to work to make sure it happens next time. But just telling her, hey, it's basically a done deal, that bothered me.
Yeah, that entire conversation, while engaging, it was like, okay, well, we're definitely out doing the Bechtel test, passing that. and then the promotion talk, like you said, is problematic.
I would say that this episode passes the Bechtel test because Ogawa and Crusher have conversations that have nothing to do with their love life.
They do get there.
But yes,
this conversation doesn't get us there, but yeah.
Yeah. Did you notice in scenes of 10 Forward, the game with the balls that was on the table?
Mm-hmm.
What? I want to know what that game was and how you play it. It almost looked like a 3D chess shrunk down with fewer pieces, so maybe like a less advanced, but play.
Yeah, some form of a Parcheesi or Sorry, or I couldn't tell exactly what was going on. It looked cool, and maybe less said the better. And we have these conversations about it, like what was it exactly?
I'm pretty sure it was just set decoration that they never developed rules for, but I liked it nonetheless.
Yeah.
We get a scene with Worf being a mentor to Cedo, and as much as we know Geordi fails and Crusher were on the fence about, Worf is a really good boss.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but in this episode, we see all of our main characters interact with these instants. Data less so than the others, but the other 6 interact, and Worf is the only one who is like, whoa, you're really good at this.
Yeah. And it's like, I want you to succeed. I believe in you and all that stuff. Yeah, all the good mentoring things.
And the what he does with her, I mean, the test where he doesn't tell her what the test is about and all that, you could kind of construe that as being a little bit bad, but I don't think so because he had a good point to it. And he was trying to teach her without lecturing to her, and he was trying to help her come to the great conclusions on her own. And then he was so supportive. And then he was also so heartbroken when at the end, which we'll get to, but
that's what really, I mean, the other characters get me, but
pain's what sold it, right?
Yeah, Michael Dorn, with all that makeup and everything else going on, man, that's some great eye acting.
We're 7 seasons in, and I know this wasn't a Worf episode, but this may have been one of my favorite episodes for Worf.
Yeah.
And it makes me really excited about him going to DS9, and I'm glad he went to DS9 because I feel like we get much more character development in DS9 for him.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I got to know him better in 4 seasons of DS9 than I did in 7 of Next Gen. I really did. So
and this is one episode where he makes up the Klingon terms, which is just funny. But he's not, I'm a Klingon, this is what Klingons do kind of a thing. He's Worf, which has developed. So at least that's developed over all these seasons. So and when he started in with that, I was like, blindfolding or stuff. Like, what kind of Jedi nonsense is this? But then, he comes around and is like, class is in session, lesson taught. I'm out. And I thought, I agree. I thought it was a good lesson.
I was getting a little annoyed with him when he kept it going, when she kept failing.
Yeah.
But then when he's like, that was the point, was to make you stand up and tell me it's unfair.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss.
Yep. That's a good
And it wasn't even. And the thing is, if you think about his role as her boss, as security chief, it isn't necessarily his place or his job anyway. I shouldn't say his place. It wasn't his job to interfere with what Picard was doing with her. Like, that wasn't within his duties. That was him going above and beyond for somebody he saw promise in and personally was supporting.
Yeah.
That he even did the whole Makbara advancement test.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That felt like a friend move rather than a boss move.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I like the way he talks with Riker about it. It's like, all right, yeah. He doesn't say agree to disagree. He just says, no, I don't feel the same way you do. I think you're wrong. And then I guess Troy's doing the same kind of thing with Riker. Like, you don't think you guys are the same? It's like, are you kidding me?
I was gonna say that Troy schooling Riker and the back and forth poker scenes were a lot of fun.
They were really good. Yeah, like it could be cheesy or a gimmick, but I thought the juxtaposition was great. I thought it was a lot of fun.
I think we all knew that Lavelle was like a young Riker. That was pretty obvious from the get-go. But so we didn't necessarily need so strong the parallel of one of them's bluffing and one of them's not bluffing.
Right,
That was an interesting choice that one was bluffing and one wasn't. But I liked the going back and forth because we see the lower deckers are just like this, essentially. But then Ben going from one game to the other, just cleaned out the lower deckers. I'm going to come clean out the senior staff. And they were all welcoming. Like, they didn't bat an eye, which fills in so much story that Ben's been around them for a long time. I mean, we see him call Riker Will, and Riker doesn't bat an eye because he's not part of the chain of command. Yeah. Whereas a junior officer would never do it. Ben can, the same way Guinan could, right?
Right. Yeah, I love that. I love that kind of connected it and closed it. I like that. I love the idea. He's like, I'm a civilian. I don't care. I can do whatever I want. That also said something about Riker, though, because Riker can be so stiff on chain of command sometimes and so rough on the people under him. And so it's interesting to see him deal with somebody who status-wise is under him, but chain of command is not, and that he does not maintain that same strata in that regard. He must treat every non-Starfleet officer on that ship as if they're his buddy and his equal, which is what we want from a future like this, right? Sure. Like, it's perfect. Sure. Yeah.
I wish he was a little nicer to the junior officer sometimes. I was definitely getting Ransom vibes of Riker in this, if we want to bring it back to the animated.
That's perfect. That is perfect. Yeah, but I thought that was a lot. Those were a lot of fun.
But then, of course, we had Ben make the mistake of saying Riker is Canadian, and then Lavelle talks to him. And I immediately wrote down, wait, he grew up in Alaska. And then, of course, he corrects him. Yeah, I'm not Canadian. And that was, for a second, I was jumping to Memory Alpha like, is Alaska part of Canada in the 21st century? Right. No. Ben was mistaken.
I went down a similar road where I was like, did I forget that Riker's Canadian? And then he's like, no, he's from Alaska. Like, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I mean, it's essentially Canadian. They both have snow, right?
Yeah. And it just makes sense that Riker's from Alaska. He's rugged and outdoorsy and weird. And no offense to our Alaskan, you got, keep Austin weird. That's a good thing. So Alaska, different. We got the Klingon Tai Chi we were just talking about. I always love those.
Makbara. Yeah.
Yeah. Our folks at Fashion So, they thought they looked like they were put together with toilet paper. I always think they look like terry cloth robes, like at a hotel. Yeah, they're very comfortable. But along those lines, so I thought that I didn't know if I liked the Bajoran nose on Cedo. It looked, and maybe that's just high def.
It's a little rushed.
Yeah, and the Fashion Show folks didn't like our guy. I'm sorry. What's Enberg's name? What? Torith. They didn't like his makeup either. And I went back and forth with that. I was like, no. This might be what Vulcans are supposed to look like. I couldn't decide. They didn't like it, but I think it's somewhere in the middle, I think.
We get the secret mission here in this thing where they're hiding the identity from the ensigns and from the audience. But what the one, I guess, complaint I had about this episode I thought was weird, and maybe it wasn't weird, maybe this was all part of whatever, but they have Cedo guarding the door so nobody can come in except senior staff, right? Then Picard's like, Ensign, you're with me, and starts walking, and there's no replacement guard.
That was my immediate response, too. It was like, wait a minute. Because I wanted her to say, I'm supposed to stay here until, to not let anyone in here. Should we get somebody else?
Yeah, I wondered why they just didn't lock the door. But
the Enterprise open door policy.
Yeah, but I don't know. So she goes to Picard, and this is when Picard tells her, basically, like, why the hell are you on my ship? I don't approve of this. Which was a tough scene to see, but I bought it in the moment because I remember Picard from that episode and how disappointed he was, and he managed to forgive Wesley and teach Wesley a good lesson. But also, they had such a close bond after those years together. Anybody but Wesley, I could see him holding that grudge and being petty about it.
Yeah, and I thought, obviously Patrick Stewart's a great actor, and obviously Picard's pretty good too. Yeah, because I wrote, he's like, how long have you been on the ship? 7 months, and then he lays into her. I'm like, you're just now getting around to this? Why'd you? And she ends up saying it later. Why'd you even have me on? Let me come on the ship if you knew you were going to hate me. And then he kind of comes clean, or he does come clean, which is cool. But yeah, I was totally believing it. I was like, hard.
I just assumed. I just assumed because there's 1,000 people in the Enterprise D, Picard's not monitoring every instant that comes on board.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and I wonder that, and that makes me wonder, like, how does that selection process work? We're getting, he probably delegates it, like, Riker, you're in charge of this, or whoever. Somebody in Riker delegates to somebody else or whatever, like, make sure we're not getting losers on this ship. But yeah, that's interesting. Speaking of it being a big ship, Agawa, yeah. When Beverly's like, oh, I saw her with another guy. I was just like, is the ship big enough to cheat on somebody? I guess. Not. It doesn't seem like it would be.
You'd get caught unless you're keeping it to the quarters.
Yeah. Yeah. And then she says, hey, I'm getting married. And Beverly's like, oh, that's great. And then I was still in my head like, are we sure he's still not cheating? Like, is this? And then, I don't know, maybe we'll hear from Agawa down the road. Maybe she'll. And I kept thinking that the character they were talking about that she was dating was our guy, Lavelle. And I was like, wait a minute.
Oh, no.
They're hanging out, or they're friends. And I was like, all right, are we going to see this guy? No, we did not. But yeah.
You looked up. Yeah, we didn't in this episode. I don't know if we ever.
That's a good question.
I do know, like, later in the series or the movie, she's pregnant or whatever, and in the book she has a child and she's married.
Maybe Beverly just saw an innocent conversation in 10-4, was over worried for her friend.
Well, yeah, I was actually, that was the other thing that bothered me, is that plot didn't pay off.
No,
that she got engaged, but they never mentioned the cheating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm assuming that it wasn't cheating, but
and Beverly being like, I'm so relieved, happy. Like, I didn't know. I thought McFadden played it, or Gates played it right. Like, I'm not going to make a big what thing out of it. And I guess maybe that's why it works, because the Gawa is just like, doesn't even question that she said relieved first. She just moves on. She's happy to be getting married, I guess. But
so, yeah, Sito and Picard. Sito does go back to Picard after Worf's lesson. And that's when we find out that Picard requested her. And man, Picard's a good captain. He really, obviously for a second, I was like, well, I know he can be petty. I know he can be the ego, but what a great thing of, like, I wasn't sure anyone else would give you that true second chance. So I wanted to make sure you got it.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Picard and Patrick Stewart won me over. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, that could be a cheesy, just kidding kind of a thing. But I really thought that they gave it the weight it needed. And I thought Patrick Stewart especially did. Because, yeah, that could just be a cheesy, stupid, like, I was just kidding. I was just testing it. But I thought that one and Worf's are both like, no, there's actually a reason behind it that makes sense.
Yeah.
That, and again, both of them make the end, both of those setups make the ending. So, really drive it home. And, when she gets ready to go on the mission and she's saying her goodbyes to everybody, I'm like, oh man, dead ensign walking. But then, I thought about something we've talked about many times, and I call it the Colleen doctrine that, and, something you've talked about is like, if people on TV, if main characters, there's no possibility of them dying, where's the tension? And, and they're doing, they're like, you don't have to do this. This is dangerous. They literally say, this is a dangerous thing. You don't have to do it. But that's what these guys do, is dangerous stuff. So it makes sense that she might not come back. Although one of the things I read said, we don't know that she's dead. We're pretty sure she is, but we don't know.
I guess with 100% certainty, we don't know, but I'm taking it on faith. I don't know of any Star Trek that's ever, maybe there's a book I haven't read, but I don't think.
Yeah.
So I'm looking
if Lower Decks or somebody wanted to bring her back, I guess, but
yeah, I don't think they would, though. I think that
didn't seem like they're
no. So I was looking on the Memory Alpha page because I'll get to why in a second. because but anyway, they talked about that this episode was partially inspired by Upstairs Downstairs, the British television show.
Oh, yeah.
And Mike McMahon, who created Star Trek Lower Decks, has said that this is his favorite episode, The Next Generation. So that's why he was inspiration. I also like that there was interesting rumor going around that these lower deckers were introduced because they were going to be main characters on Voyager, and this was a setup.
Yeah.
But that was Jerry Taylor herself said, I don't know where they got that idea. We weren't just going to put a bunch of young people. It's not going to be Star Trek 90210. I don't understand.
I guess I could see it being a backdoor pilot or whatever, like they used to do a lot. I could see people thinking that, but
I am just disappointed that they didn't. If you're going to bring back the actor that played Torek as another engineering Vulcan ensign in Voyager for 8 episodes, why not make
Why not? Yeah.
That one feels really weird that you just didn't make it him.
Yeah.
But I will say the reason I was looking at Memory Alpha, though, was because my thought as this mission was playing out and we found out why they wanted Sina to go on it was, why was this not Ensign Rowe? And why was Michelle Forbes not the Bajoran in this episode?
Good question. That's a good question.
I guess at that point they were still trying to persuade her, or maybe she wasn't. I was just trying to persuade her to come back for something meteor and not just kill her off. Or, I mean, the DS9 ship had sailed by this point. She wasn't even on that.
Right.
Or maybe she was like, I don't want to die in the episode. Or maybe
That's true too. I
don't know. I'm not finding anything. These are all just wild speculation. Or maybe she just wasn't available for filming this episode. I know she's going to come back this season. I think story-wise, we found out we either know or will find out she's in a tactical training program, so she's not on the ship right now. But still, it felt like if you're going to have a Bajoran ensign, why is it not Rowe?
Yeah, and you talking about Mike McMahon's inspirations and all that just took me back to when I first heard there was going to be a comedic Star Trek animated series. I was just like, are you kidding me? And now I just love it so much that it's, like, how could I ever thought that? I've been wrong many times before, and that one for sure.
Sure.
My only note I have is that if people didn't like Cito Jaxa and Torek's makeup, I say this every time, so it's probably not understood anymore, but I always loved the Cardassian makeup, and I thought in this one was especially good.
Yeah, I think that Cardassian was probably that whole big foam piece they just put on and paint to match, which they were able to do a lot easier with a whole piece. Whereas I do think with Torek and Cito, they're just not leads, and they didn't give it the time and budget. That they should have because they were leads of this episode. They should have gotten lead level makeup, but they didn't get there.
My one other fashion note. Sorry, I got one other note. Is it possible for Vulcans or Romulans to have good hair?
No.
Okay.
No.
Fair enough.
I can't recall ever seeing a Vulcan or Romulan male with good hair.
Yeah, I agree. Joanne Linville. Did.
Yeah. And she's not alone. T'Pring on the Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
The original series.
Geez, yep. I should have wrote down. That's men only category. Yeah. Thank you.
But there are a fair number of Romulan and Vulcan women that have the same bad haircut. So
yeah. But those are two outstanding examples of
women in both species have the option. Good hair.
Yes.
The men apparently do not. They all have bad hair.
Yep.
And most of the women have the bad hair too, but few of them.
Yes. I think of Denise Crosby's character.
Yeah. So they talk about. Well, I also think of the Kreznit of the Vulcan Romulan alliance in Star Trek Discovery.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. She's got the same bad hair. Anyway, and that's 1,000 years in the future.
Yeah.
So for as little plot as they give Cito and the Cardassian, Jorrit Dahl was the Cardassian. I didn't open him up because he didn't have a picture, but it's played by Don Riley, best known for this one episode of Next Gen. But it does have 10 credits. Nothing that sticks out to me. A couple of guest spots and things. But yeah, they gave them so much to do in that scene. Like him talking about Jorrit Dahl, talking about why he he doesn't consider himself a traitor to his species. He's just sick of war and the military's corrupt, which I think we've seen a bit on DS9 and we're going to explore further. I would argue he's a young man. They invaded Bajor like 70 years ago, so they've been bad for a while, but we are going to see them get worse in the next few years and how bad that Cardassian military has really fallen. So I liked that development. I liked that they had time in those couple of minutes to legitimately, sincerely make a connection.
And I thought this whole episode did that so well. And it's like, why can't we do this every week, guys? Especially at this point, and it just doesn't happen.
The shuttle mission that Sito goes on, they say they're going to put her in an escape pod. That shut's not big enough to have an escape pod.
Yeah, you wouldn't think.
No, we saw the inside.
Yeah.
Unless they were curled up in a ball. Where's that escape pod fitting?
Didn't they pick up Ro in one? Isn't that how they met Ro? Was it Ro that was in one?
Was different. That wasn't a Starfleet shuttlecraft escape pod.
Right.
We know the Enterprise D is escape pods. We'll see them in the first movie, but that just didn't feel it didn't ring true to me.
I didn't look at the name of the shuttle either. I usually mean because it's another shuttle that gets destroyed.
Yeah, I forgot to look. Well, they knew they were sacrificing that shuttle because the plan was always to send her back in an escape pod.
Yeah.
So, Ogawa and Torek know more than Lavelle, and that becomes real awkward. I thought it wasn't fair for him to get upset there. I mean, as much as he's Starfleet, he should be okay.
I didn't think so either. I mean, a guy who wants to be Riker should know all the regulations. Be like, yeah, that makes sense. But maybe that's telling us something about Lavelle, which is maybe like, well, I thought we were friends. I thought, it's more important than that. Even though he's the guy who's just like, I gotta get promoted. So,
Mariner would have told Boimler.
Yeah, you're right.
We get through 32 hours and no sign of her. Picard breaks the tree for her. That feels out of character to me. I know Picard cares, and I know he'll go to great lengths to get his officers back. But him sending that probe, risking war, that felt a little out of character and maybe the wrong move.
Yeah, it might have been, but I'm sure it was. Yeah, it was appreciated.
It was an emotionally satisfying thing.
It wasn't. Yes.
It wasn't true to the situation or characters, though.
It's what Kirk probably would have done, but it's probably not the thing.
Not what Picard would have done in other episodes. If we hadn't had this whole episode getting to know her, he would have never done it.
Yeah.
So Picard makes the announcement to the crew. I assume he does that every time they lose an officer, and this is just the first time we've seen it.
Yeah. Because I think, I don't know if I don't think Kirk ever did it. I mean, obviously we have the funeral.
He probably did it. We just probably didn't see it. I would assume that's
I think you're right. Yeah.
I mean, we see him eulogize Spock. I bet he eulogizes every officer that dies.
Yeah. Well, he does. He eulogizes the guy in Balance of Terror.
Yep.
I think.
Yeah.
You're confused.
I think so too. I think so too.
Yeah.
I think you're right. We're probably both wrong, but I think you're right. Lavelle gets promoted. I guess that proves Riker doesn't have it out for him. I mean, Riker's probably hard on those he's supporting the way Ransom it. It's, that makes sense. But I liked seeing his friends support him and being like, Sita would have been the first to congratulate you.
Like that, and the whole, the way to honor her is to do this. And it was just like, that's when it started getting me. And then when Worf kind of came over.
Oh, and the way Ben got Worf to come over about, I have to move this table. I'm like, what's he talking about? Why does he have to move this table? And then I got like, oh no, he just wants Worf to join him.
Yeah, I had the same reaction. I'm like, what the hell's he talking? Oh, yes. And then I just started tearing up. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I ended that episode with tears. Tears for sure.
When Worf is like, well, I was her commanding officer, and he's like,
you were friends.
Yeah.
They're like, but we know you're her friend too.
Yeah. It was, that
I'm choking up right now.
Yeah, me too. And I think that's that's where that TNG ethos of, not no conflict, but more togetherness and that kind of thing really comes in. It's just, it was just really well done. They great job. Like I said, as much as we've been like, these guys just playing out the string here on this season, this one, and I don't think it's great. Yeah, and I don't think it was, this is just better than, it's just because we've been watching bad episodes. This is a really good episode.
And I think this was the type of episode that's like, we're coming to the end. I've got this big, bold concept. Let's take a swing.
Yep. Yeah.
And it was a home run. It paid off immensely.
Yes.
Grand slam. The only other note I have is fashion. Ben's outfits were fun.
Yeah.
I wish he had a guy in a hat. I wish he made all the workers wear hats, but then she probably doesn't want anyone else to outshine her. So
the Fashion Show folks pretty much said something similar, which was, yeah, they loved all of his clothes and they thought that, yeah, he got the guy new clothes. So, yep.
I didn't love all the makeup to Cito to make her look beat up. It wasn't makeup because it had to fool. So they actually they didn't punch her, but Dr. Crusher probably actually harmed her skin.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah,
she probably popped the blood vessels to make it bruise or whatever.
Yeah. Huh.
That would be my guess. But is that unethical? I don't know.
I did go and check Balance the Terror. We don't know that Kurt gave the eulogy, but the episode ends with him comforting the widow. Ensign Martine.
And then sleeping with her.
And then, walking away very sad. It's one of my favorite. You got everyone who listens to this podcast knows it's one of my favorite endings. But
wait, you like Balance Terror? Which one was that again? No, I'm kidding.
And then 3 episodes later, she's down on the shore leave planet hanging out with some other guy. But she had to move on with her life. She had to move on with it.
She knew what she was getting into. Those Starfleet relationships, they got to be ready to bounce back quick.
Hey, as we said, it's a dangerous job. People are going to die.
They are.
So
let's get to the rankings then.
Yes, sir.
Who was your annoyance?
I had to edit this one because at first it was Picard. Now I'm just pre-Picard. So that guy is for the second that I believed he was annoying when he was like, "What are you doing on my ship? I don't like you, blah, blah, blah." But I had to back it. I had to walk it back. So it's only Picard halfway through the episode. That's my annoyance.
The bluffing Picard.
Yeah. Yeah. He nailed it. He did a great job.
He did. I mean, I feel a little bit bad, but it's got to be Lavelle.
That's a better choice, actually. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. That's the choice. You know what?
Yeah.
Can I switch mine to Lavelle?
Sure.
I'm going to switch. That's a good one. That makes sense. Because you want to like him, but yeah, he was a little whiny. But yeah, that's a good one.
He had enough to him that he could be a Riker that you end up liking if you got to know him over a few years. But in the moment now, he was annoying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who are you going to have a drink with?
I thought about with our friend Cito, RIP, but I had to go back to Ben, our guy Ben. When he gets off duty, I'm hanging out with Ben. Or I guess off work, not necessarily off duty, but yeah.
Yeah, and then you're going to hang out at his place of work?
No, we'll probably need to find a different hangout. Yeah, we'll be at the after party together somewhere else.
I'm sure there's more than one lounge on board the Enterprise D. But 10-4 is the best one, so you have to go to an inferior lounge. Yeah. The hole in the wall with no windows on deck 12.
I feel like that's a me and Ben spot.
I'm joining the table at the end, the lower deckers and Worf. I'm going to sit there and cry with them and commiserate.
That's good. Yeah.
I mean, it's cheating because it's not one person, but...
Yeah. Well, and, just to get back to our dearly departed friend, Cito Jackson, I thought the actress Shannon Phil, I know she didn't do a lot more afterwards, but I thought she did a really good job too, because it could have just been I'm the girl on this show and kind of a thing, or this episode kind of a thing. And I thought she was very effective too in being vulnerable, but also tough kind of a thing, and yeah. So
I thought she was okay. I didn't think she was, I think the writing more than her acting is what sold it, but
she did not hang the moon. I will agree with that. No,
she didn't.
Yeah.
But I do wonder if they had a truly great actress play that role, if this would have landed even harder, but it landed hard enough with her. So
that's a good, yeah.
If it had been Ro that died, God, I probably would have really wept.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have hurt.
That would have hurt real bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're not going to see Ro again. Well, no, we're going to see her again soon on Next Gen.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say, we won't see her again for many years, but we're going to see her again. Because she has a brief spoiler. She guest starred in New Trek. I won't say when or where, but Ro has returned in New Trek.
Oh, all right.
So we'll follow up with her 20 years from now. But yeah, Michelle Forbes. I was so glad she came back. Anyway, right now, the number one seat for this season, I think this is where we need to start, is the Pegasus, where Riker has to stand up to Terry O'Quinn, his commanding officer.
God. I should remember.
That was a strong episode. Had Captain Picard Day in it as well.
Oh, that was fun.
That was fun, but it was Riker betraying his commander that was the selling, the hard hitting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I really like that episode, but I think this one might edge it out for me.
Terry O'Quinn, I'm with you on that. Yeah, that was a good episode, but yeah, I'm definitely going with this one too.
Okay,
it may be recency bias, but
it may be. But that one didn't make me cry. So,
although that was only 3 episodes ago, so it wasn't that long ago.
And the one right before that parallels is the one right below it. So I feel like, granted, last Next Gen episode was Sub Rosa, which is the bottom of the season.
Oh, yeah.
Overall, but I think overall, if we look at these last 5 episodes together, we're starting to see a turnaround, and I'm hopeful that continues for the rest of the final season.
Yeah, and again, I felt like we loved this episode not because, it was at least better than what we've been watching. I just thought it was legitimately a really great episode.
Yes.
On its own.
This would have been, I don't know if it would have been number 1 in other seasons, but it would have been there in other seasons.
Yeah.
Definitely top 5 of any season, for sure. I can't think of a season that had 5 episodes better than this. So,
yeah.
Next week, we are going to Deep Space Nine for an O'Brien-centric episode. So it's almost like a continuation of Next Gen because, he was in Next Gen.
Yep.
It's called Whispers. Chief O'Brien's world is turned upside down when, for no reason whatsoever, he is being ignored by his family and friends and being closed out of every essential job on the station. I love that IMDb includes that for no reason whatsoever.
That's great.
Until then, live long.
And but not dangerously, and prosper.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?